something to show you here today, and this time it's vinyl. Around about 1980, I was co-managing a scheme for youngsters in Birmingham, and it was for various skills, bricklaying and things like that anyway, and it was on a church. Anyway, great bunch of lads there, and the one morning this one young lad walked in and said, John Lennon's been murdered. And when people say that thing, I don't know why we say it. You're kidding. Anyway, that's as I seem to recall it anyhow. And at that time I didn't really have any of John Lennon's solo work, so there was a rather odd record shop on Coventry Road in Birmingham, and I thought, as I was walking along, record shop, go in, have a look, and they had nearly all of Lennon's solo albums, but most of them were Canadian pressings, as I learnt later. So I bought these albums, and they were on a good price actually, but this one is one of my all-time Lennon favourite solo albums. John Lennon, Rock and Roll, that amazing photograph. It's so distinctive, isn't it, that? That's the rear of the album, and I'll show you the label in a bit. It says produced by Phil Spector, arranged by John and Phil, 73 to 73, and then that's marked with an asterisk and then two asterisks. Produced and arranged by John Lennon, October the 21st to the 25th, 1974, at Record Plant East West A&M Studios. Engineers Roy Cicala, Lee Kiefer, You Can't Catch Me, Shelley Yakus, Slipping and Sliding, assistant engineer Jim Iovine, remix engineers Roy Cicala, Jim Iovine, relived by John Lennon, mastered at the Cutting Room, Record Plant, New York. There are other credits there, I won't go into them. Side 1, Bebop-A-Lula, followed by Stand By Me, and then there's a medley, Ready Teddy, stroke Rip It Up, You Can't Catch Me, Ain't That a Shame, Do You Want to Dance, Sweet Little 16, and then we go over to side 2, which is Slipping and Sliding, Peggy Sue, and then there's a medley, Bring It On Home to Me, Send Me Some Lovin', Boney Maroney, Yeah Yeah, Just Because. And I'm sure that I followed a series, a couple of interviews that were done just before John's death, with Andy Peebles, and John was discussing this album and saying, a lot of the songs brought back memories of when he was in Hamburg. I suppose the Beatles covered several of these tracks because they used to play such long sessions, and not just one session, it'd be a few sessions. Anyway, let's just take this out. It's a paper sleeve. I suppose I should change the paper sleeve really, and it's on that beautiful capital label there. See? Great, I love them. When I very first bought records, which were 78s, I can remember being amazed by the capital labels on them, and what was that record? 16 Tons and Number 9 Coal and Tennessee Honey Ford, was it? Anyway, I am digressing. Now let me tell you a few little bits that I'm reading here, so I'm not committing immediately from memory. It's John's 6th studio album. released in February 1975. Says it is an album of late 50s and early 60s songs as covered by Lennon. Recording the album was problematic and spanned an entire year. Phil Spector produced sessions in October 73 at A&M Studios, and Lennon produced sessions October 74 at the Record Plant East. Lennon was being sued by Maurice Levy. Many of us will have read lots about Maurice Levy over copyright infringement of one line in his Beatles song Come Together. As part of an arrangement, Lennon had to include 3 Levy-owned songs from Maurice Levy's publishing company, Rock and Roll. Spector disappeared with the session recordings. Now, this is something that John covered on his interview with Andy Peebles. And I'm just checking this from Wikipedia, so just bear with me a minute. Oh dear. The wonders of the internet. Phil Spector disappeared with the session recordings and was subsequently involved in a motor accident, leaving the album's tracks unrecoverable. Now, Lennon said on the interview that by this time Phil Spector had become totally paranoid and he couldn't hand back the tapes because there was a helicopter over his house, and there was some conspiracy against him by the CIA. And oh dear. Anyway, unrecoverable until the beginning of the Walls and Bridges sessions, with Walls and Bridges coming out first, featuring one of the Levy-owned songs. Levy sued Lennon, expecting to see Lennon's rock and roll album. The album reached number 6 in both the United Kingdom and the United States, later being certified gold in both countries. It was supported by the single Stand By Me, absolute classic track, which peaked at number 20 in the US and number 30 in the UK. The cover photograph was taken by Jürgen Vollmer, that's of the LP, during the Beatles' stay in Hamburg. It was to be Lennon's last solo album with no recording contract obligation. He was on a hiatus from the music business to raise his son Sean. And his wife Yoko Ono staged a comeback with their joint release, Double Fantasy. Now, what does it say here? It goes on to talk about in '69 Lennon composed the song Come Together for the Abbey Road album, inspired by Chuck Berry tune You Can't Catch Me. The resemblance to the original, and it bore a melodic resemblance to the original, and Lennon took the third line of the second verse, Here Come Old Flat Top, for the new lyric. Maurice Levy brought a lawsuit for the infringement, and the case was due to be heard in New York in December 73. It was later settled out of court with the agreement that, according to an announcement by Levy, Lennon had to record 3 songs by Big 7 publishers on his next album. The songs he intends to record at the time are You Can't Catch Me, Angel Baby, Yeah Yeah, and Lennon had the right to change the last 2 songs to any songs that were published by Big 7 publishers. Anyway, it goes on and on and on and on, and then it starts getting a bit boring. I've just taken that incidentally from Wikipedia. Thanks, Wikipedia, but people can read that themselves anyway. Don't need me to read it out. It's a great album, and yes, there was a delay, but what interests me is this. I wonder how many other tracks were tried out for this album, and if they're sort of sitting in storage, and maybe when it comes to the rock and roll album being a box set, we will see many other recordings, because despite what John would have you believe, and him going through his quiet period and baking bread, etc., etc., he was quite prolific. So I think that we will see other songs akin to these that will crop up in a rock and roll box set sometime in the future. And I absolutely dread to think how much it will cost at that time, what the price will be. Well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing this. I hope it's of some interest. Anyway, I've got several of Lennon's albums on vinyl, and I've got them all on CD. But I'm not really tempted to spend a huge amount of money on a box set. Well, for the latest one, and certainly not that one that's about £1,200 that I've seen on the Super Deluxe website. It's something that I couldn't really justify. I'd probably be shipped out of this house anyway if I tried something like that. Well, this has been a bit of a long one, but there again, it is John Lennon, so I think it's worth it. And as a tribute, I put my glasses on. And you might say, well, maybe you need an eye test. Well, I just had the notification through that I do need to have an eye test, so you're probably quite right. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a like or leave any comments. I nearly always answer them anyway. And if you've not subscribed already, now is a good time to subscribe. Okay, have a great day. Bye.